Hello, welcome to our webinar at Statistics Solutions. My name is Justin D'Souza. I'm a statistician at the company. During today's webinar, we are going to discuss how to deal with missing responses in a data set. I'll be using SPSS to give some demonstrations. My colleague Janine is providing some hyperlinks in the chat box for scheduling consultations. You can check those out. I'll go through the entire presentation first, and then we will do a question and answer session at the end. So you can type those questions into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint as well as a copy of the webinar. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'll give a brief overview of the services that we provide at our company, Statistics Solutions. Then we'll look at how to deal with missing responses in SPSS. I'll give a demonstration with a sample data set in SPSS, and then we'll conclude with a summary and a question and answer session. All right, on this slide, you can see all the various parts of the dissertation journey that we assist with, starting with topic development, going all the way to final defenses. So the way our company works is we have methodologists and literature review specialists. We assist with both quantitative and qualitative studies, mixed methods as well, and we assist with literature reviews. So depending on where you need assistance, maybe you need help framing your purpose statement or your problem statement, finding a theoretical framework to support your study. Maybe you need assistance with framing your research questions and hypotheses in statistical language and figuring out what are the best analyses to address those questions. We can help you there. We also assist with IRB forms, entering data into data entry templates. So if you're unsure how your data needs to be organized, we can give you a template to enter your data. We have our own SurveyMonkey account in which we can host a survey for you on SurveyMonkey. And then we assist with the final chapters, the results chapter, in which if you send us your data set and your research questions and your data plan, we can crunch the numbers for you and provide an APA write-up of the findings. And then we assist with the discussion, which is connecting your findings back to the literature, and then preparation for proposal and final defenses. And we can help you condense your dissertation into a journal publication. So if you have any questions, you can give us a call at 727-442-4290, or you can use the link that Janine provided in the chat box to set up a meeting. All right, so we are looking at missing responses today. And in my experience, there are three predominant methods that can be used to deal with missing data. The first method is removing non-responses altogether. And if you're using something like SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics, you can avoid this by making every question mandatory on your survey. So it's actually quite simple to do in SurveyMonkey here. So I have a sample data set here in SurveyMonkey, and as you're designing the survey, all you need to do is go to options on a particular question, and then check mark this option right here, require an answer to this question. That way participants cannot skip any questions and you don't have to deal with the headache of partial responses or non-responses. Sometimes IRB might not be on board with us, with making questions mandatory, but it does simplify the data analysis process if you don't have any missing data. So I would give this a try. See if your IRB is on board with us if you're using an online data collection platform, SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics. You can also do this in Qualtrics. We don't have a Qualtrics account, but the instructions are fairly simple. You just need to go to response requirements and then add a forced response requirement to each question. And so it can be done in pretty much any software. The second method is swapping missing data with the mean, median, or mode of each variable. So this is sometimes called mean, median, or mode substitution. You're just swapping the missing value with the respective mean, median, or mode. And then the final method is multiple imputation. This involves using regression models to predict your missing values. A little bit more of a complex procedure. You need to have a specific version of SPSS to run multiple imputation. Let's look at these a little bit further. So method one is just removing non-responses altogether. The thing to look at is once you download your data set, you want to eyeball the entire data set and kind of see how much missing data do I have. You can run frequencies and percentages to figure out how much missing data you have. If someone is not responding to a majority of the questionnaire, if you're using a Likert scale survey that's been previously validated, you don't want to deal with partial responses if that's possible. So if someone fails to respond to a majority of the questionnaire, you can just remove that individual collectively from the spreadsheet. However, that method should be used if you have room for error and that you can eliminate cases and still have a large enough sample size. So when you're in the methodology chapter, you probably need to do a sample size calculation. You can run a power analysis. You can use sample size calculators on the internet. G-Power is a fairly common tool for power analyses. So, say we're running a multiple regression here, and we only have one predictor. So putting in the parameters, G-Power tells you what is the minimum sample size we need to target. In this case, it was 55 participants. So if you are well above 55, if you're in the hundreds or even beyond, you have the ability to remove cases and still have a large enough sample size. So that's what I would do. This is probably my number one preference, is eliminating partial or non-responses. The second method is swapping the missing values with the mean, median, or mode. So this is used specifically for different levels of measurement. So if you have a continuous variable, that's part of your research questions. This is important, is that you want to replace missing values only for variables that are part of your research questions. So if demographics, gender, age, ethnicity, if those are not part of your research questions, then you don't necessarily need to swap the missing values for those. You only do it for the variables in your research questions. Okay, so you can use mean or average replacement for continuous data. You can use median replacement for ordinal level data. So like single Likert scale questions, strongly agree to strongly disagree. You can use median replacement. And if you have a categorical construct or a categorical factor, then you can replace with the mode. So the mode is the most frequent category in your data set. You can replace with the most frequent category, and that would be the mode. Okay, and then the third method is multiple imputation. So this is a more complex procedure in which you use regression models to predict the missing values. So you need to have a more advanced version of SPSS to run this. So you go to analyze, and then there's multiple imputation here. So this is a very in-depth procedure. You can look at YouTube videos and read some articles about it. There's a lot of decisions to make when you do imputation. You have to have data that are missing completely at random to run multiple imputation. So there are some prerequisites to meet before doing imputation. It's usually a last resort procedure for me. I don't prefer to do it, but some procedures, some data sets, if you're using archival data like the NHANES or hospital record data sets, many archival data sets will give you instructions on how to deal with missing data. They will tell you if you should use imputation or use a substitution method instead. Okay. And I would also suggest reaching out to your committee, your methodologist or your chair. they may have a preference for what method you use. So that kind of makes the answer easy. All right, so let's look at some examples. We'll go back to method 1 here. And the data set I have pulled up here is extracted directly from SurveyMonkey. So I've done nothing to the data set. This is SPSS. This is what the raw data looks like. So for this study, the purpose was to give a Likert scale question for school engagement. So how engaged are students in their school? And then we have a course grade at the end here. So what was the grade in a particular course? So the purpose of this study was, what is the relationship between school engagement, which is measured by all these Likert scale questions here, and course grade? So the school engagement, you can see how it was coded, a 1 to 5 Likert scale. So the first thing you want to do is kind of just eyeball the spreadsheet. Okay, so you take a look at the spreadsheet and just see, you know, how many missing values do I have? Do I have people who consented and then dropped out completely, or do I have non-consenters? Do I have any people who responded to a majority of the survey but failed to respond to a few items here and there? I think we have every combination for the most part. So this question right here, this is our consent item. They had to provide consent in order to continue. So if they said a 2, no, I do not agree to participate, the survey ends right there. So we can see right away, we have some 2s in here. We have some people that were invited and did not even respond to the consent item. They just dropped out right away. We have cases right here where someone provided consent, responded to a majority of the survey, but missed an item right here. So there's a few different combinations of missing data. The first thing I would do is add an ID column in here. You want to keep track of all your participants. So the way you can do that is just add a variable. So I'm right-clicking, insert variable right here. And I typically just number everybody in the spreadsheet 1 to 117. So there's not a quick way to do that in SPSS. We need to go into Excel and we can do an autofill. So if I just start the list here, 1, 2, 3, then we'll go down to 117. All right, so now we have an ID, which is important because if you ever make any adjustments to your spreadsheet, you can see specifically what individuals were removed, non-responses or outliers or whatever reason you're taking people out. All right, so the first thing was giving an ID. Next, I would remove people who did not consent. Okay, so we can quickly do that by just sorting the consent column here in descending order like this. Now all the 2s come right to the top and these people did not respond. We have a course grade for these people, but they didn't respond to any of the engagement items. So these individuals should come out, right? And what you should do as well is create a running list of how many missing responses you have. So we'll just say missing responses and start a bullet point list. We have 117 initial participants. And then I'll say non-consenters. I believe it was 6. Yeah, so 6 people did not consent. And what's really important as well is that as you make adjustments, you save the spreadsheet repeatedly, even with minor adjustments. Okay, so we have these 6 cases that I am going to remove. Just right-click and clear. I would resave the spreadsheet now with a different title. So it's not 117 anymore, it's 111. And we removed non-consenters. Next would be participants who consented, but then did not respond to a majority of the survey. Okay, actually, I think there's another group as well, people who didn't even say, I don't consent, they just did not continue with the survey at all. So these people need to come out as well. 24. And we'll add that here. So participants who did not respond to any item, or we can say participants opened the survey and did not respond to any item. So we had 24 here. All right, so again, we need to save the spreadsheet again. Now we have 87. All right, and then we need to look for people who consented and then dropped out. You know, these people responded to the demographics, gender, education level, and so forth. But then when it came to school engagement, they didn't respond to anything. Okay, so a quick way to figure those out is to just pick a random column in the middle and then sort in ascending order. And that is going to bring the non-responses to the top. I'll do a different one so it's a little cleaner like this. So we can see these people did not respond to any school engagement items. But I would take these individuals out. All right, so now we have 68. Okay, and then you would save the spreadsheet again. I can't do math in my head right now. So what did we have? We had 87, now we're at 68. So we removed 19 cases on responses to the engagement survey, 17 cases. This gives us our final sample size. All right, so we have 68. Everybody else provided consent, responded to the demographics, and responded to a majority of the school engagement component. And course grade, we can deal with that as well. Okay, so the final sample size, 68 cases. And the purpose of saving over and over is so you can go back to a particular step if you need to. You know, we have our first spreadsheet here of 117. Let's say you wanted to go back to a particular step before you removed people. You can do that by selecting a particular file. All right, the remaining non-responses we have are people who completed a majority of the survey but failed to respond to an item here and there. So this is where I would use the second method that we talked about, using mean, median, or mode replacement. So you use mean replacement if you have continuous data, and you use median replacement if you have ordinal level data. And the variables of interest for this study are school engagement and course grade. Now, school engagement, each of these items are Likert scale, ranging from strongly disagree up to strongly agree. And course grade is a continuous variable. Generally, if you see decimals as a possibility, the variable is most likely continuous. So course grade falls on a continuum from 0 to 100. So this is considered scale or continuous. So what we can do is use median replacement for the Likert scale questions, and we can use mean replacement for course grade. The way we do this is we go to transform and then replace missing values. And this box pops up. Then we need to do this step twice. First, let's do school engagement. What you do is you check this box right here, and we're going to select a median of nearby points. And I want to adjust it to a span of all points. So all this is going to do is it's going to calculate the median of the column and swap the missing values with the median. Right, and then I need to move school engagement to this right box here, excluding course grade because we need to follow a different method for that. And that's it. All right, so we click OK. And what you'll see is a copy has been made of every variable. So here are the original school engagements right here. And then here are the copies with the median replacing the missing values. So for example, this case right here, this is school engagement 4. We have a missing cell right there. School engagement 4 has now been swapped with a new value, with the 4, which is the median. So that's how you swap Likert scale questions. We can also do the same thing with the course grade. All right, so we go to transform, replace missing values. Let's reset this whole window and start from scratch. Of course, before you do that, you have to select your menus actually. So you can't move things up here until you select the method. So we're going to do a mean of all points like that, then move course grade up here, and then click OK. And then at the end of our spreadsheet, we now have a course grade variable and we don't have any missing values. Okay, so now we don't have any missing values throughout the spreadsheet. You most likely don't need the original variables here anymore, the ones that have missing values, but I like to keep them in just in case your committee might ask to see them. So it's important to keep a running record. I would keep them in just in case. But then to the right, you have your copies with the median replacement and then the mean replacement. And these are now your variables of interest. All right, so that was method 2. Method 3, as I mentioned, is more, it's a more complex procedure, multiple imputation. It's predicting missing responses with regression methods. So you do need a specific version of SPSS to run that. So in summary, before running any analyses, scan your data set and figure out how many missing values you have. Create a running list like this, a bullet point list of how many people you start out with and how many cases are coming out. Give a definitive final sample size for your results chapter. And figure out if your committee has a preference for how to deal with missing data. They might have a particular method that they prefer. If you're using archival data, you'll want to look at the instructions on that data set, you know, with the NHANES or any hospital record data sets. They tend to give instructions for how to deal with missing values. And then you have 3 methods. You can eliminate missing values altogether if your sample size is large enough. You can use mean, median, or mode replacement. So mean is used for continuous values, median for ordinal, and mode for categorical factors. Or you can use the more complex multiple imputation. All right, do we have any questions? If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box. We'll send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint and a copy of the webinar. And if you have any questions about the services we provide, you can give us a call at 727-442-4290. Or you can use the link that Janine placed into the chat box and you can schedule a consultation that way. All right, yep, and we do have an alternative number as well. Janine just put it in the chat box, 877-437-8622. Do we have any questions about missing data and how to handle? I know, I think a couple people joined midway through, just so you can see all the different parts of the dissertation that we assist with. I have that on this slide as well. Any questions about missing data? All right, well, thank you for joining, everyone. We'll send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint and the webinar. Come join us for the future webinars we're doing. We do a few of these every week. I think it's up to around 12 a month. So yeah, come join us again if you have any questions. Have a great day.